Had some fun memories with this, and of use to me no more. Chess will be getting that in the mail soon. Don't worry, I'm no bet welcher. I at least live up to that promise. All right, well, what can I say about this game? It's I had to wait a little bit for this because I was gonna end up saying some stupid shit that ain't true if I just made it right after the game. I was heated, I was angry, but who wouldn't be after what I just saw? For starters, and I guess this is uh something I should have been saying in the halftime video. I apologize to the Georgia fans. For real. Georgia was the better team, and it was not even a challenge. If this game was played in Neyland, I don't think it would have been much of a difference. Georgia just absolutely dominated and drugged Tennessee across the field of Sanford Stadium. They just absolutely beat the ever living piss out of Tennessee, and it was not a close. It wasn't close all the way. From the moment the coin was tossed up until the final snap was made, this was an absolute just shit fest. It was domination of Georgia. It was Georgia manhandling a inferior opponent, and that's what happened in this one. Georgia came out and took care of business and beat the absolute crap out of Tennessee. And you know what? You know what? You're doing Kentucky and all these other teams a favor. This trash can is no longer worthy of holding any other team. It's gonna sit there blank for a while, at least until things play out a little different. Yeah, Georgia just manhandled Tennessee in every way, shape, form, and whichever analogy you want to use is exactly what happened here. If you want to hear me say some wacky analogy, think about this in your mind, okay? You're running a marathon, and most people expect for you to finish in the back because you're fat or something like that. And I'm not saying that you, the viewer watching this, is fat. That's not what I'm saying at all. But say you're running a marathon and most people expect you to finish in last because they're probably people like full-time cross-country runners, and then there's you. So people don't expect for you to perform up to par. Well, you do. In fact, you surpass most of them. And then you get to the one at the very front. And you're already thinking that you're about to pass him. And then out of nowhere, he just pulls out a fucking python and just shoots you right through the skull. That's exactly what happened in this game. Tennessee came in, ego was high because they thought they were the number one team. And then the real number one team in the Georgia Bulldogs pretty much just gave them an old slapping. For a good 4 quarters, Tennessee got absolutely drug across the field. You know what? I'm not even worthy of this hat anymore. Tennessee got absolutely dominated. It wasn't a competition. The game was over as soon as it begun. Maybe you could say that after the field goal that Tennessee got, but after Georgia got that first touchdown, history was set in stone. Tennessee was going to get massacred. So, for starters, shout out to the Georgia fans. They wanted it more. Shout out to the Georgia team. Shout out to the coaches. Shout out to UGA. And shout out to Sanford Stadium, which probably was louder than anything Neyland has produced thus far. So shout out to Sanford for that. Just shout out to the entirety of Georgia in general. I hate you guys down to every last fiber in my body, but no matter what, I can't move my head away from the truth. And the truth is that Georgia is the most talented team, and Tennessee is far from. And They got their asses beat today. No easy way to sugarcoat it. Tennessee got absolutely dominated. It wasn't a competition. It wasn't even close. It was just, we got fried. The coaches didn't know what they were doing. Our offense just got completely manhandled because the moment the run game got shut down, we were completely one-dimensional. It's exactly how I thought it would turn out if the run game was not efficient enough. And, well, that's exactly what happened. The offensive line was a complete joke. It looked like something out of 2018 with Jeremy Pruitt. A Jeremy Pruitt-led veteran offense. That's exactly what I saw because all they could do was let Hendon Hooker get sacked or they cause a false start. And I guess that's in fault to most of them being around for the Jeremy Pruitt fiasco. So all they know how to do is do the same exact thing Jeremy Pruitt taught them how to do, and that's to suck. And that's all this team did today was suck. They sucked on offense. They sucked on defense. They sucked on special teams. They sucked on coaching. And pretty much anywhere else they could suck, they sucked. Take whatever analogy you can from that, whether or not you want to turn it into something that really has no that has no affiliation to the game itself. It's probably true to Tennessee. We sucked. We all sucked. It was a massacre. It was absolute domination. Whether or not you want to say the Sanford Stadium and the Athens crowd had any part in that, you'd probably be right. But if this game were played in Neyland, it probably wouldn't have played out much different because Georgia was just better in every... They were just the better team. They were the better team. They dominated Tennessee. And if this is exactly how it's going to play out, if Tennessee makes it into the playoffs, then I don't want to go to the playoffs. Why would I want to do that when Tennessee can just settle for a Sugar Bowl victory? That's much better than anything Tennessee's gotten in, 15 years? I'd rather have that than to go into the playoffs just to get absolutely swallowed by Georgia again. I don't think this Tennessee team is built to be one of those teams where it's like, oh, you can't beat a good team twice. Yeah, unless it's Tennessee. Because they were not a good team. This is a terrible performance. This looked like something from the 2017 Butch Jones-led team. Absolutely just horrific performance. People are going to say, oh, well, at least Tennessee didn't get blown out. What difference would it have made? The only difference is that they let me think that Tennessee had a chance all the way up until the end of that game, and then we blew it, and then I had to take the salt, take the crow at the end. Whereas if the game were just a big fat blowout and Georgia was leading by 40 going into halftime, I could make this post-game video and then be done with it. I wouldn't have to sit there and watch as Hendon Hooker overthrows open wide receivers. And speaking of which, I don't see any which way Hendon Hooker wins the Heisman this year. I just don't. That was, and granted, the offensive line was garbage and didn't let Hooker do anything. He was completely rattled, and it just didn't turn out the way we thought it all would. But here's the thing about Heisman quarterbacks. It's known as a Heisman player that in a situation of adversity, the Heisman player is the one that makes the difference. He's the one that rallies the team together and makes a stand, makes a difference, actually makes it competitive. Hendon Hooker did not do that today. He did not make the game competitive. Had that wacky interception where he just threw it to Cedric Tillman on a desperation throw. None of our receivers could get open, and all Hendon Hooker could really do was just try and tuck it and run. And that's all. I mean, that's all we saw was just him trying to run away from the pressure, and he got sacked every single time. And that was the story of this game. It was funny that I mentioned Georgia had half as many sacks in the season as Tennessee. They actually doubled that today. You look it up. They had 10 sacks going into today, and they got 10 more today. Today. They doubled their amount of sacks in a season, in one game. Yeah, shout out to our offensive line. Bunch of veterans, my ass. Is it really that hard to recruit a decent O-line once in a while? Okay, that maybe I'm being a little too critical on this team. We were playing the number one team in the nation, granted, but still, there's no excuse for playing so bad. It's just so bad. I can't. I don't even know what to say anymore. Other than shout out to Georgia, they were the better team by a significant margin. Was not even a close debate in that one. Georgia dominated Tennessee. Tennessee had no right being the number one team in the playoff ranking, and I doubt they'll be in the top 4 come next week because they don't deserve it. And honestly, it would be a shock to me if Tennessee wounds up backing their way into the college football playoffs. If we did, great, fantastic. We'll get the honorary achievement of getting absolutely drug on the field by Georgia. The only difference is it'll be in a neutral site instead of at home. Congratulations. Or on the road, wherever I don't care. Maybe the power should have just stayed out. The power went out early in the first quarter. Maybe it should have just stayed out. Would have saved me the luxury of having to watch a terrible Tennessee team perform and pretty much the Tennessee that we're all too familiar with, which is garbage, doo-doo, and the word that we're all too familiar with as Tennessee fans, lose. Losing. That's the big key here. We lost. We may not, we'll go 11-1. The rest of our schedule is a joke. Mizzou, South Carolina, Vandy. I'm not worried about any of those opponents. I think we'll beat them pretty handily. The way that they're playing right now, but I got nothing else to say. Shout out to the Georgia fans. Congratulations. You guys wanted this more. You guys earned this win. And in my mind, you earned the number 1 spot in the college football playoff poll. And it probably should have been that way from the start. And now they've made an example out of Tennessee. God, I hate Georgia with a burning passion. If there was any team I'd want to beat this season, even more than Alabama, it's Georgia. And we didn't do that. So now I got to hear for the next 365 days about how terrible Tennessee is because they just couldn't match up against the number 1 team. And for you other fan bases out there like Florida, LSU, and Kentucky, who got drug on the field by Tennessee, sit down. Sit down. We're still better than you, and not just better than you in terms of this team. We're better than you in terms of a program. And you'll find out later about that. Anyway, Mizzou's our next opponent. We'll beat the crap out of them. So officially starting Mizzou Hate Week. Congratulations to Georgia. You guys wanted this. Chess, I'll send my stupid mask to you later on in the week. BPD and power to Tardaria. And go Vols too. Why not?